Hello, this is Charlene Law Jackson. This is my sheep dissection part 2. In this video, I'll be covering about 20 parts of the brain, including their functions. Please, as a disclaimer, I apologize for any noises in the background. My daughters are awake and they are loud. Okay, so as you can see, I've already dissected the brain. I'm going to move my camera down a little. So I've already dissected the brain. I've split it into a sagittal view. So I'll start with some exterior portions of the brain. So to begin, I'll start with the lobes. So there is the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe, it is main function is for movement, memory, personality, decision making. Then there the parietal lobe, which is about mid or in the middle of the cerebrum. The parietal lobe's main function is also for memory, also considered the where of in the brain, and for proprioception. Then there is the occipital back portion of the back portion of the cerebrum. Its main function is for visual processing. Then there's the temporal lobe, which is down here on the side, which is closest to your temple. Its main function is for memory, emotion, and hearing. So those are the lobes. And I want to continue with the exterior portion of the brain. We have here the cerebrum, which is the largest part of the brain. It's the largest portion. The cerebrums, there's the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. And its main function is to interpret our sensories, such as touch, vision, hearing. Then I want to go down to the hind portion of the brain, or hindbrain. One part is the cerebellum. The cerebellum is also considered the little brain because it does look like a miniature brain. The cerebellum, its main function is for balance, coordination. Could also be used for timing, and it's also trainable. And then I'm going to move down to the spinal cord. This is the spinal cord. This is a small stem of the spinal cord, which is from the brain, which will of course connect to the spinal cord throughout the rest of our bodies. It consists of 31 segments. That includes 8 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral, and 1 coccygeal. Going back or continuing in the hindbrain, there is the medulla, which is about right here. The medulla, it's basically used for body regulating functions such as breathing, your heart rate, things of that sort, and you must have it in your life. If not, then life could be fatal. Then moving up, there are the pons. Pons are they controls the body's automatic function, especially sensory and motor functions in the head and the neck. It also it's a point of um, decussation. As we mentioned in class, decussation is a crossover, to cross over. So next, I'll continue with going over some portions of the exterior of the brain, and some of the sagittal views as well. So here at the at this dorsal portion of the brain is is it's the olfactory bulb. The olfactory bulb is main function is for this sense of smell. And then if we move down a little further, these would be the optic nerve. The optic nerve's main function is to relay messages from your eyes to your brain to create visual images. And then next, you'll see the optic chiasm. This is a sagittal view of the optic chiasm, which is right here. The optic chiasm's main function is for crossing the fibers from the nasal retina, optic tract. So as you described in class, so it goes from the optic nerve through the tract for example from the right side, and then in the middle at the optic chiasm, then crosses over to the optic tract of the opposite side of the body. And just going back to the optic tract, if we can see it, the optic tract would continue about right here. This is the chiasm, and then the tract would continue about right there. The optic tract carries visual information from the chiasm, the optic chiasm. All right, so to finish up, we're going to go inside the brain. This is our sagittal view, and a really good close look of this. So let's start with the corpus callosum. That is this portion of the brain. It's here on the inside. Corpus callosum is a bundle of fibers connecting the hemispheres. So it's what keeps the largest part of our brain together, the corpus callosum. It also transmits messages from one side of the brain to the other. For example, as we mentioned before, the right hemisphere controls the left side of the body. The left hemisphere controls the right side of the body. Then we can go to the thalamus, which is about right here in the brain. The thalamus, how could I ever forget? From what Dr. Holly has taught us, it is the grand central station of the brain. It receives and redirects. It relays sensory information to the cortex, except one sensory or one sense, which is smell. And right beneath the thalamus is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus processes the information. The thalamus receives and redirects. The hypothalamus processes the information. It also involves sleep, eating, sexual behaviors. And it also involves the HPA axis, which is the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, which regulates the body processes and control body reaction and stress. So that is the thalamus and hypothalamus. And then I'm trying to find it, but there's also the pituitary gland, I can try and look for it on this other side. But the pituitary gland, I'm thinking it's this right here because there's a thalamus, hypothalamus, and the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland, it produces and controls our hormones. That's the main function for that. Um, and then I'm gonna finish up with the ventricles. I'm so sorry for my daughters. The ventricles. So there are 4 ventricles in the brain. The main function is for cushion in the brain, basically to cushion the brain. It consists or it's filled up with CSF. Again, the ventricles are filled with CSF, cerebral spinal fluid. Their main function is to cushion the brain, to circulate nutrients, to remove waste from our brain and from our spinal cords. So to identify them, this is your lateral. Now, the lateral ventricles, you have your left, of course, on the left hemisphere of the brain, and then you have your right, which is on the right hemisphere of the brain as well. Then you have the third and fourth ventricles. The third ventricle would be about right here. Ventricle. The function for the third ventricle is basically to send and receive messages from the lateral ventricles. And then lastly is the fourth ventricle, which is about right here. Fourth ventricle, it drains into the spinal cord, and it connects the third ventricle through the cerebral aqueduct. Okay, and that would be right in here. So I believe that completes my video for sheep dissection 2. That's it. Thank you.